Hello everyone on YouTube, welcome back to another video. This is the first video of 2026 and today I want to do something special. So I'm going to be looking at every single Linux distribution I've ever used and ranking them based on how good they are and whether or not you'll like them. So the first Linux distribution I'm looking at today, to start things off, is Debian. Debian is great. It's really stable. Debian is one of those distributions where you look at it and you think, why are the packages so old? I can't use this. Just because a distribution's packages are too old doesn't mean the software that the distribution packages is too old to be useful. I mean, it says on the Debian wiki, these packages have often been tested extensively and only fit packages are included in a release. So LibreOffice, for instance, is up to version 25 at the moment, but you've got packages like, I don't know, Audacity, which are still on a really older version due to how stable they are. That's what Debian is. Debian's package manager is apt, and if you're familiar with Ubuntu, which we're going to be taking a look at in a bit, the syntax is very familiar if you're coming from Ubuntu. So, how would I rank Debian in 2026? Debian is a good distribution. You should give it a try if you've got the level of expertise in Linux like I do. So that's Debian. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that if you want a rolling release distribution with Debian, you can go for testing, although it doesn't stay rolling release for long because it can become the new stable. And that has newer packages. 10 days after they migrate from Debian SID, that's when they come to testing. And Debian SID is, you can kind of think of it like Arch Linux, but in Debian form. Debian is rolling release. SID, that's what SID is. But you can't install SID directly. It's recommended to use the stable installer and then do an upgrade directly to SID. Debian SID is the unstable branch. So that means you're always going to get packages that are cutting edge and that are going to break a lot. Now Debian SID gets updates constantly. Very crazy. You're going to be updating your system constantly. Unlike SID, with Debian stable, you'll probably only update your system once every few weeks or months. I mean, you're always going to get security updates. So that's that. So that's Debian. The next distribution I want to look at is Arch. Oh, Arch Linux. Most people have a love and hate relationship with Arch. Arch is, by nature, a do-it-yourself distro. When you first boot into an Arch installation, USB or any of them Arch Media, you're going to get what I like to call a TTY login. And then from there, you have to configure the system yourself. There is a guided installer, but let's be honest, the guided installer is not screen reader friendly. Not anymore, at least, anyway. And eSpeakUp keeps crashing, so I really can't recommend Arch for accessibility minded people if you're just going to be using the Arch installer. But if you're one of those people who likes to install Arch via SSH, then you can do the manual Arch installation way that you've been doing for years. And then once you've got Arch installed, you've got a decent system. You're getting the latest packages as soon as they're available. You're getting the latest kernels as soon as they're available. You've got access to the AUR, which gives you access to nearly every single package you could ever want. Want Google Chrome? Yes, you can. Want Microsoft Edge? Definitely. Need to install Signal Desktop? Yes, you can. It's perfect, but it does have some caveats. You have to manually do everything. So if your system breaks, you're going to have to either ask the Arch Linux forums, and they'll often guide you to manual intervention. But that's all I can say about that. And what about package management? Arch Linux uses the Pacman package manager. Its syntax is a bit weird, but it works really well. The package syntax is pacman space dash capital S for installing a package, pacman space dash capital U for installing a local package, pacman space dash SY for syncing the repositories, pacman space dash capital SYU for updating the entire system. It's all there. Pacman is not the best package manager when it comes to user friendliness. I mean, if you're new to Arch, you'd be used to something like apt and DNF. But you got to understand who Arch is for. Arch is for those who really, really know about Linux and they want to see the inner workings of Linux. So that's Arch Linux. Where would I put it? Despite its quirks, I still like it. So I'm going to put it on the top. It's a good distribution. You shape the distribution, not Arch. So whenever your system messes up, generally it's not actually the distribution's fault. It's user error because you weren't paying attention to what Pacman was telling you. So if it says it's going to remove a package, you want to do research on that package before you actually go ahead and do some system updates. Oh, and you also have to refresh your GPG keys every time, so that's another thing as well. So that's Arch Linux. The next distribution I want to talk about is Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the distribution to use. It just works. 9 out of 10 times, if you've got a package, a hard piece of hardware that won't work on any other distribution, chances are it'll work on Ubuntu. Ubuntu has two different variants you can go for. There's the LTS versions, which is meant for industrial devices such as medical controllers, POS terminals, air traffic control systems, industrial machines, kiosks, point of sale systems. That's Ubuntu LTS. But for regular desktop users, you can go for the 9-month versions, which are supported up to 9 months. So those are usually the October releases and April of every other year. So the way Ubuntu's versioning system works is we're currently on the latest version of Ubuntu is Ubuntu 25.10 at the time of recording this video. So 25 means 2025 and 10 means October. And for those curious enough, that version is called the Questing Quokka. Now, a quokka is not a duck, it's a marsupial. I think it's a marsupial anyway. Pardon the noise. Don't get French bulldogs, they're stubborn. So, Ubuntu. What do I like about it? It's easy to install, it's easy to set up, and it's got a really friendly design, and Canonical have done really good work on their installer lately. I mean, 24.04 may not be accessible yet, but I don't recommend 24.04 for regular desktop users anyway, because desktop support has long since been discontinued. Yes, Ubuntu's desktop support is usually 9 months. The LTS designation for the next 4 years, for the 5 years you get, are for the aforementioned non-desktop devices. And if you're an enterprise user, you're going to love this. You get 5 years of support, and then you can extend that to another 5 years with Ubuntu Pro. And Ubuntu Pro is actually free for personal use. So you can get a free Ubuntu Pro on up to 5. You can get it up to 5 machines. But if you're a large company, then you can get a paid plan for, I think it's more machines than what you get on the personal Ubuntu Pro. But Ubuntu 24.04 is not really recommended for desktops, because even though you do get new kernels for each point release, generally the kernels are way too old anyway to support new hardware. So if you just got a new graphics card, like the latest NVIDIA card, chances are it's not going to support 24.04. It won't support Ubuntu 24.04. You'd be better off on the interim releases, where you've got a better chance of support. And the HWE kernels are often old. I mean, the latest HWE kernel for 24.04 is Linux 6.14, which is already EOL. The latest Linux kernel, as of the time I'm recording this video, is version 6.18, which is an LTS kernel, and it's also the latest kernel. I mean, 6.19 is already in its RC stages, so that's another good thing. Oh, and of course you've got PPA, so if there's a package you want that you can't get in the official repos, chances are it's available for Ubuntu and PPAs. And let's not forget, Ubuntu supports a wide range of Linux software. Excuse me, let me clear my throat.
Pause video recording. Resume.
A wide range of Linux software is supported on Ubuntu. Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Brave, Signal Messenger, Zoom Workspace. It's all available on Ubuntu. So when you go and download the software for Linux, you're only going to see a deb or an RPM. Now for Ubuntu, you're going to want the deb version with the file extension .deb. So download that and you'll be able to use Zoom on your Linux system. Now, where would I put Ubuntu? Ubuntu, beginners, just download Ubuntu. You're going to love it. I recommend it for anyone who's starting out with Linux. Don't use any of the other distributions. Don't use any distribution that is not Ubuntu. You want to use Ubuntu. So there's Ubuntu for you. The next distribution I want to talk about is Fedora. Oh wow, Fedora. I absolutely love this distribution. Fedora is the upstream testing ground for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and Fedora is backed by Red Hat. Red Hat doesn't own Fedora, but it sponsors it, and Red Hat engineers do contribute to Fedora, which is one of the nicest things I love about Fedora. You're getting cutting edge software, of course, but you're not getting them as crazily as you do in Arch. Fedora is a static release model, just like Ubuntu. Now, Fedora works similar to Ubuntu in the sense that you get support for up to 13 months. Right now, the latest version of Fedora is Fedora 43, and the upcoming Fedora 44 is said to release in April this year. So there's plenty to love about Fedora. You've got the package manager is DNF, which is the successor to the now vintage Yum package manager. DNF is essentially Yum on steroids, but it's better. It's got dependency resolution, which is off the charts. You can install packages from a different release of Fedora than the one you're using. You can easily get packages from personal repos, from Copper repos, which we call COPR, Cool Package Repository. So you're never lost without a way of getting some decent software on Fedora. And you're also getting the latest software as of the time of that Fedora release. You're not getting crazy updates like you do in Arch or Debian testing.
Stop. Pause with. Resume.
But you're also contributing to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So where would I put Fedora then? It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. I love Fedora for what it is, but it takes a while to get set up. I mean, you've got to install RPM Fusion. I definitely don't recommend it to new Linux users. If you're an experienced Linux user, you've been on Ubuntu for a little bit, then why not give Fedora a go? I mean, that's the whole point of trying out Linux distributions. You're not here to distro hop. You're here to try different distributions and see what the philosophy is. Saying that though, would I recommend Fedora to any seasoned Linux user? Oh yes. I definitely recommend Fedora. It's got a nice installer for one thing, and and the upgrade process is really, really smooth. Basically, all you've got to do is you tell DNF to download all the packages that you've got installed now and prepare for a system upgrade. And then you need to tell it what version you want to upgrade to. So let's say you're on Fedora 42 and you want to do an upgrade to Fedora 43. Well, you do sudo DNF system-upgrade space download space dash dash or release ver equals 43. And then it's going to go ahead and download all those packages. And then once it's done, it'll tell you how you can upgrade. So once you're done, you do a sudo dnf system-upgrade reboot, and then you go ahead and you're upgrading to the next release of Fedora. Now you're not going to have speech, you're not going to have text to speech during the upgrade, but you're not going to have text to speech during the upgrade, unfortunately. It's just like how Windows Update used to work in the Windows 7 and 8.1 days. But you're going to have a nice way of you'll be able to monitor the upgrade status if your fans go quite loud. And then once you've upgraded, you'll just boot back into the login screen like nothing ever happened, and you'll be on the new version of Fedora. Now Fedora keeps Orca up to date, right up to the point releases. So they're really good with that. Ubuntu doesn't. The version of Orca you get, especially the point release, is the version you're stuck with. So even though Orca 49.5 is released, Ubuntu is still stuck on Orca 49.0 because Canonical doesn't bother with accessibility these days. But Orca is there. It's just that Canonical, the Ubuntu community doesn't bother updating it. The version of Orca that you get on Ubuntu is the version you're sticking with. You're not getting any new point releases like you are on Fedora. You're still stuck to that version of GNOME until the new version of Fedora is released. Same with Ubuntu, but you're not getting point releases. You're going to be stuck on the same buggy GNOME. So if you've been having issues with GNOME 49 on Ubuntu, chances are Fedora's got some fixes for you. I still recommend that you I still recommend beginners just use Ubuntu anyway, and not Fedora. Saying that though, Fedora is the same as Ubuntu. Packages for every single app on Linux likely have an RPM, and if there is an RPM, it's been tested with Fedora, so go ahead and install it. Google Chrome's got an RPM, Microsoft Edge, Signal Private Messenger, the whole lot. They've all got an RPM. So install that RPM and you're good to go. So that's Fedora. The next distribution I want to touch on is CachyOS. This is a new player in the distribution market, and honestly, I don't like it. They've just put Orca on their distribution and just said, there you have it, you've got Orca. But what if you want to use a different desktop environment? I'm sorry about that, but if you install a different desktop environment that's not GNOME or KDE, you're not going to get Orca. So even if you install Mate during the installation, you're not going to get Orca. Cachy is supposed to be based on Arch. It is based on Arch. So all the Arch fundamentals apply to CachyOS. So where would I put it? I'm going to put it on the no way list, because it's just a terrible distribution. It's a no-go for me. The next distribution I want to talk about is Manjaro. Oh, wow. I am so impressed with this distribution. Manjaro is essentially Arch Linux, but for new users. Not new Linux users, but new users in the fact that they want to get into the Arch distribution. Now, what do I like about Manjaro? It's easy to set up. You've got two package management front ends, Pacman and Pamac respectively. And you can turn on the AUR support at the touch of a button now. Be warned, I've had this happen to me. I've got two Google Chromes on my Manjaro system, yes, because Pamac is a bit too helpful. You want to use Yay, Y-A-Y, as an AUR helper because it's really good at dependency resolution and will stop doing things if it detects a problem with dependencies. But that being said though, I don't treat Manjaro as though it's an Arch distribution. Treat it as its own thing, just like Debian and Ubuntu. Manjaro has its own repositories. So, and packages are usually held back a week. So way behind Arch. It's still, you still get the feeling of an Arch-based distribution. I mean, you're running a rolling release, so you're going to be updating constantly. but Manjaro tests their packages so that you don't get problems. And let's not forget that Manjaro is backed by a company as well, so it's a decent distribution. But don't go installing too many packages from the AUR. You can install browsers, that's it. Don't go scouring the AUR for packages you don't know about, because the last thing you want to do is break your system. That being said, I don't recommend it for new users because, well, it's based on Arch, and Arch isn't a beginner-friendly distribution to begin with. But I do recommend Manjaro over CachyOS. So there's one thing. And, oh, by the way, if you want to install Manjaro, the SPK Spins version from Jim B on SourceForge, to get Calamares working, you have to go into your terminal, on the Mate terminal, and then type, you want to switch to the root user by typing sudo su. Once you've done that, you do, let me just remember how I did it, export, $, left parenthesis, dbus dash launch, wrap parenthesis. Press enter. Nothing's going to happen. If you don't see any errors, you've done it. And then you're going to launch Calamares from the command line. And then once you've done that, you'll have an accessible installer. You'll be able to install Manjaro this way. And then once you've got Manjaro installed, you've got a solid system. Go wild. Well, not too wild because it's not Arch. You're better off using Arch if you do a lot of installation from the AUR. So where would I put Manjaro? If you want a rolling release, you've got a stable rolling release. Manjaro is in the definitely list. The next distribution I want to look at is OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE is brilliant. It's compatible with the RPM package manager, and it's really nice. It's if a package has an RPM available, chances are it works on OpenSUSE. But the package manager that OpenSUSE uses is Zypper, Zypper, and it's very picky about where it gets its packages from. It won't allow you to change the vendor of a package unless you tell it first. That being said though, what do I like about OpenSUSE? There are two different editions of OpenSUSE to pick from. There's the Leap version, which tracks SUSE Enterprise Linux, which is really, really stable. You're gonna have a stable experience with Leap. And then there's the Tumbleweed version, which is the rolling release model. Now, unlike Arch and Manjaro, Tumbleweed packages go through extensive testing. And that testing is often for weeks before that package is pushed to Tumbleweed. And if you miss the AUR, don't panic, because you've got OPI, OBS Package Installer, OBS standing for OpenSUSE Build System. Now, if you're visually impaired like me, I recommend that you go for the OEM installer with GNOME, at least for now anyway, because you can just keep pressing enter as long as you've got nothing on the drive, and as long as you install on the right drive. And what's going to happen is OpenSUSE is going to reboot constantly. You just keep pressing enter, and then I want you to reach for your volume keys if your laptop has any. And then if you hear a pop when you press the volume button, at any time, if you press any of the volume buttons and you hear a pop sound, that's your cue to turn on Orca, because Orca is included in GNOME. And then you can go through the first time setup. And then you can install the desktop of choice once you actually get into GNOME. So that's OpenSUSE. I put it on the definitely pile because it's a distribution I just love. I mean, I like to use Tumbleweed because I like being on the edge of Linux. Saying that, Manjaro is still a decent distribution. It's easy to install and it's nice. But if Manjaro just breaks a lot of the time, which it often does because it's based on Arch, then Tumbleweed is your man. Tumbleweed's brilliant. So what's the zipper syntax? It's either zipper upgrade, zipper update, or zipper install package name. And if you want to upgrade the entire distribution, you do zipper DUP. In fact, OpenSUSE recommend you do that for Tumbleweed, because you're going to get the latest packages regardless of what goes on. And I mean, to me at least, Manjaro feels like a stable system. It doesn't feel like a rolling release, or it's getting the latest stuff. I think it's because I'm new to Manjaro, and I've learned more about OpenSUSE and Tumbleweed than I have with other distributions. That being said, though, you're still getting new software, so that's that. So that's part 1 of my Linux tier list. Stay tuned for part 2.
Stop taking with.
This is Jordan signing off, saying have a good day, everyone.